السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أما بعد. My dear respected brothers and sisters, this creation, this world, this dunya that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created has certain laws which govern how it operates. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who set these laws. common laws we are familiar with. If I drop these papers in my hand, they will fall to the floor. We believe in this law and we expect this law to happen. We have full iman in this law, full yaqeen in this law. The sun goes down at Maghrib and it rises at the Fajr time. We are not going to go to sleep wondering if the sun will or will not rise at Fajr, because we have yaqeen and iman, faith in that law that the sun follows, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in place. So these are the laws that we interact with daily, but we may not realize or remember or put in our consciousness that this is a law that Allah set down. Brothers and sisters, there are other laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set down, and these laws are in the Quran. وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Your Rabb says, call upon me, I will respond. That's a law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do we have iman in that law like we have the iman in the law of gravity? Do we have yaqeen in that law? The law says, if you call on me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you make dua to me, I will respond. The law. You call, Allah respond. There's no, I wonder if Allah will respond. Maybe Allah will respond. The law is, if you make dua with sincerity, Allah will respond. That's the law. Measure your iman in that law. Another law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. Whoever turns away from my remembrance, from remembering Allah, from having Allah in your life, indeed he will have a depressed and stress-filled life. That's a law. You take Allah out of your life will be full of stress, full of uncertainty, full of personal anxiety. That's a law. Today, brothers and sisters, in these few minutes, I wanted to talk about another law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and give you a short historical story of an example of how this particular law came to light. And this law that I want to talk to you about is هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ. Is the reward for doing good anything except good? You do good, you get good. That's the law Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala laid down in this dunya. If you do good, you will get good. And brothers and sisters, the story involves Imam Abu Bakr Muhammad from Baghdad. He lived about 900 and some years ago, and this story that I'm going to relate to you or summarize to you is written in the history books in his own language. Why? Because he was a great scholar of Baghdad, and he was also very wealthy. He lived until he was around 92 years old, and he was very wealthy in his life, and he didn't need to really work, and he could devote himself full time to teaching the durus, teaching the students. So at one point, some of his students asked him, Ya Shaykh, Imam Abu Bakr, how did you become so wealthy? And so he related to them a story that happened to him when he was a student in the university. And this is the story I'm going to tell you now. So he was a student in Makkah as a young man. He was studying the deen, Sharia, fiqh, all of the subjects in Makkah at that time. This is the 5th century of the Hijrah. And he said there came a point where he was laid off from his job. He had a small job, he was a full-time student, but he had a small job to make his ends meet. And he was living alone in Mecca. Remember, he was from Baghdad, so he was kind of like an exchange student, so to speak. He didn't have family there in Mecca, and he was studying. So he lost his job, and his situation became so tight that he couldn't even eat 2 meals in the day. He had to only have 1 meal. And to the point that he started selling his books, his student books, to make money so he could eat. So he was in a very difficult situation. No one there to help him, nor did he want to ask for zakat and ask people for help. He didn't want to do any begging. So he was really in a tight situation. So what does the believer do when they're in a tight situation? He, being in Mecca, he went to the Kaaba and he made fervent dua to Allah to ease his situation. This is Abu Bakr, Qari Abu Bakr, Imam Abu Bakr, when he was a young man. So he said after he made that dua, he left the haram, and on the streets of Mecca, there was no one around at that time, and he happened to see a velvet cloth pouch, on the road. So he said he picked it up and he looked at it. It was very beautiful. It was neatly tied with a silk cord. And he looked around and there was no one around. So he couldn't ask anyone, hey, is this yours? So he decided to pick it up. He was very curious to see what is in this velvet cloth. And he took it home. And when he was in the privacy of his home, he opened it up and he saw an amazing pearl necklace. It was a pearl necklace with huge pearls and some crimson colored silk thread that was holding the pearls together. Very dazzling pearl necklace. So his immediate thought was, first he was amazed at how beautiful this thing is and how expensive it must be. And then his thoughts went to the owner. This owner must be really stressing out. This owner must be really, at wit's end that he lost this valuable piece of jewelry. So he said, I need to go back and I need to kind of see if the owner is around. And so he went back to that same spot outside of the haram, and he saw, when he got there, a group of men all gathered in that area where he found this pouch, and they were all talking, they were animated, they were excited, and there was an elder man who looked like a very impressive type of man, who was the one talking about the necklace. So they were actually looking for the necklace. So our Qari, Abu Bakr, took the man by the hand and said, I want to show you something. And so the man understood that, maybe he has the necklace. He took him all the way home. And after asking him to describe the necklace some more and making sure that this was actually his, he gave him the necklace. So the man was there's nothing wrong with taking the reward, but in his wara', in his desire to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more, he felt that, look, I didn't do anything to really deserve this 500 dinars. Remember, he's in a tight situation. He's only eating 1 meal a day. He sold his books to just have some money. He was being offered 500 gold dinars, and so he said, I'm really conflicted in his mind. Eventually he said, no, I want to trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fully, and I want to wait for my reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to not take this 500. So there was some kind of back and forth. The man who happened to be an imam as well was insisting that, look, there's nothing religiously wrong with you taking this money. And so eventually the man left without giving him the money because Qari Abu Bakr did not want to take the money. In the days and weeks following that incident, he got his old job back. His situation became easier. His studies became easier for him. He was able to acquire his books back. هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ. If you do good, well, good will come to you. He ended up graduating after a few years, maybe around 4 or 5 years, and he graduated with distinction in his studies, to the point that he was offered a job to be the main mufti, the main qadi of Qurtuba, Spain. You remember Muslims used to rule Spain for hundreds and hundreds of years. So at that time, he was offered a job to be the Qadi, the main scholar of Cordoba. Huge, big deal, with a great compensation package and all that. So he was very excited. He accepted to take this job. He made his way to Jeddah, right? Because you have to get from Mecca to Spain by sea. So he got on the ship in Jeddah and he proceeded to make his way. There was a big storm, okay? The ship was destroyed. There were only a few survivors. Again, this is all historic record. The ship was destroyed. He found himself clinging to a plank of wood. And after several days, he washed up on the shore of a place where he didn't know where he was, but he was too weak. He was, dehydrated. He was almost dying, and he ended up on the shore. Some people found him. They took him to the village. He ended up in Yemen. He ended up in Yemen, in the southern part of Yemen, about 600 miles from Jeddah. That's where the remnants of the ship ended up. Long story short, brothers and sisters, they found out, these villagers, it was a remote village called Hudaydah, and they found out that he was a qari, a qadi, a faqih, an Islamic scholar. So they told him that, look, our imam died last year. He was the imam of our whole village, our little town here, and he died. And we haven't been able to find someone to come and teach us the deen because we're in a remote village. So we had to shut down our primary school. We had to, not have the lessons. So they asked him that, can you stay with us? Can you stay with us and just live with us and be our imam? They said, granted, we won't be able to give you a compensation package like Cordoba that you got in Spain, but we love you for the sake of Allah. All of us are very, they had grown close to him over the many months where he was recovering. They had grown close to him, and they trusted him and his knowledge. So out of some humility and, in gratitude that these people took him in and they took care of him, he said, okay, I'll do so. And so, alhamdulillah, over the several months, he was able to restart the school, he was able to restart the Islamic classes, and he was very comfortable and feeling good about being with these people who seemed like very good and decent people. After some time, some of the elders came to him, and they said, oh, Qari Abu Bakr, alhamdulillah, you have been with us, everyone is very happy with you, the entire village is benefiting and getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with your guidance and classes. But one thing is missing in your life, is that you are not married. Would you consider marrying the daughter of our former imam? Our former imam who had died last year, we all loved him. He was also a great scholar, and he has left a daughter who is very beautiful, who is mentally very sharp, and is a very pious girl. So Qari Abu Bakr, he agreed to that. Okay, I'll get married. So the tradition of our Muslim tradition is that you're not going to really see the bride in a lot of cultures until the day of the marriage. So the day of the marriage came, the entire town gathered, and they did the nikah. They had celebration, and then the time came for Qari Abu Bakr to actually meet his wife and to start, living as husband and wife. So on the night that they met, and the elders, they presented this girl to Qari Abu Bakr, his new wife, and they lifted her veil. He was shocked to see on her neck the same exact necklace that he had found 5-6 years ago. He was amazed. He couldn't speak. And so they noticed that he was looking at this necklace intently, and they said to him, are you amazed at this necklace? This necklace has a history. It was the property of the imam of our village, and he had gone for Hajj to Mecca, and he had lost it. And there was a young man who found that necklace and refused 500 dinars as a reward for this necklace. And our Imam, he made dua, he continued to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, oh Allah, take me back to Makkah so I can offer my daughter to marry this pious man. Allahu Akbar. هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. The law, when you do good, you will get good. So obviously, the Abu Bakr told the people that I am that man, and the entire people there erupted in Allahu Akbar and in tears of gratitude and amazement at how the dua of this Imam and the good deeds of Abu Bakr brought that ship from Jeddah heading to Spain down to Yemen and deposited Abu Bakr right at the place that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had decreed in order for the law. هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. Isn't the reward for good anything but good for that law to be enacted? أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Brothers and sisters, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam wa Rasulullah. This is a true story from the lives of one of our scholars. The laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are in place and are in action in our life every day, every single moment, my brothers and sisters. This law of our beating heart, that your heart will continue to beat one after the other. The law of your health, the laws of your wealth. When you work hard, inshallah, you'll get rewarded for that. The promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to feed you, to take care of you and your children. These are all the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How cognizant are we of these laws in our life every day? Brothers and sisters, when it comes to doing good deeds, any good deed is a charity, is a sadaqah on yourself and on your fellow man. The Prophet ﷺ said that every due on every one of us is a sadaqah every day. Being just between two people is a charity. And helping a man with his animal or his car is a sadaqah. And lifting his luggage, helping him with some weight is a sadaqah. A kind word is a sadaqah. And every step that you take towards the masjid is a sadaqah. And removing harmful things from the path of people is a sadaqah. Prophet ﷺ describing small good deeds that you can do. A good deed. هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. You do a good deed, even if you consider it small, you do it sincerely to please Allah, you will get good. You do good, you'll get good. And the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. Do not regard any good deed as insignificant, as not a big deal. Don't do that. He said, وَلَوْ أَن تَلْقَى أَخَاكَ بِوَجْهٍ طَلْقٍ. Even meeting your brother with a smiling face is a sadaqah, is a good deed. Just smiling at someone. هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ. Isn't the reward for good anything but good? ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب وأقيم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.